Today, we're uncorking a story that's all about transformation. It's about a fungus that walks this incredibly fine line between being a devastating disease and a celebrated treasure. It's a total paradox, and it lies right at the heart of some of the world's greatest wines. When we picture a glass of wine, this is what we see, right? It's pure elegance. It's the final product of a perfect harvest and some seriously masterful craftsmanship. This is the dream for every single winemaker out there. But out in the vineyard, this is often the reality, a destructive force that can absolutely ruin an entire harvest, turning all that potential for perfection into total waste. But here's the crazy part. What if I told you that the very same fungus that can destroy a crop is also the secret behind some of the most expensive and sought-after wines in the entire world? Okay, so let's start with the basics. For pretty much every winemaker on the planet, a fungal invasion like this is an absolute unmitigated disaster. Molds have this nasty habit of showing up at the worst possible time, right as the grapes are ripening. See, the skin gets thinner, the grape gets sweeter, and it's just super susceptible. This is especially true if you get rainy or humid weather. And the result? You get a smaller harvest, and the wine you do make is just not going to be good. And there is one primary culprit that vintners absolutely dread. So let's meet the main villain of our story, gray rot. Its scientific name is Botrytis cinerea. It's a type of fungal disease, and man, it causes a ton of damage, not just to grapes, but to all kinds of ripening fruit. In the vineyard, it is by far public enemy number one. And here's what it looks like up close. It starts out as these little lilac-colored spots on the skin. But if it stays humid, the fungus just digs right in, invading the pulp until the whole berry just wilts and dries out, covered in this characteristic gray, fuzzy mold. Now here's where it gets really interesting, how it attacks on a chemical level. First off, it destroys the compounds that give red wine its beautiful color. Then it creates enzymes that cause oxidation, which turns the wine all brown and murky. It also breaks down those delicate aromas you love. And to top it all off, it produces chemical byproducts that just taste plain bad. It's a total, full-spectrum assault. So let's break this down. The fungus makes these big, sticky molecules called glucans, and they make the wine incredibly difficult to filter. It also eats up all the nitrogen, which starves the yeast and messes up fermentation. And it creates that oxidizing enzyme, lacase, which is what's responsible for all that browning. It's basically sabotaging the grape's chemistry from the inside out. But just when you think you've got this villain figured out, the story takes a wild turn. It's time to meet the other side of this fungus, the noble rot. And this right here perfectly captures the central mystery. You've got the destructive gray rot on the left and the treasured noble rot on the right, and they are caused by the exact same fungus, Botrytis cinerea. The villain is also the hero. How cool is that? So how is that even possible? Well, it all comes down to the weather. You need these very specific, almost magical conditions. Misty, foggy mornings that let the fungus grow, followed by dry, sunny afternoons. That dry period is absolutely critical. It stops the fungus from breaking the grape skin and turning into that destructive gray rot. Instead, it just gently pokes these tiny holes in the skin, letting the water evaporate and concentrating all the sugars and flavors inside. And the results? Well, they're legendary. We're talking about the world's most famous dessert wines, like Sauternes from France and Tokai from Hungary. They're only possible because of this noble infection. These wines are prized for their incredible complexity and sweetness, all thanks to a fungus that, in any other situation, would be a total catastrophe. Now, to really appreciate just how unique Botrytis is, we need to meet its purely villainous cousins. First up, we've got Penicillium. Yeah, you might recognize that name from the world of medicine, but trust me, in a vineyard, it is very bad news. It shows up as this pretty distinctive greenish-gray mold. And unlike Botrytis, there is absolutely no upside to Penicillium. It just eats sugars, creates these vinegary-off flavors, and gives the wine a nasty, musty taste. It can even contaminate wooden barrels so badly you have to just throw them away. It is always a destructive force. And then there's Aspergillus, or white rot. It forms this kind of flowery, almost dusty-looking mass on the grapes. And just like Penicillium, it often shows up right alongside Botrytis, just making all the damage that much worse. So this slide really puts it all into perspective. Penicillium and Aspergillus, they're the straightforward bad guys. They always cause spoilage, no questions asked. But Botrytis cinerea, that's our complex double agent. Depending on what's happening in the vineyard, it can be your absolute greatest enemy or your most valuable ally.
Now, beyond just the taste and the quality of the wine, there's a really serious health reason to be concerned about these other molds. This is the part that really matters to us as consumers.
The problem is something called a mycotoxin. Basically, these are toxic chemical compounds that are produced by fungi. And in the wine world, the one that regulators are most worried about is called Ochratoxin A, or OTA for short. And guess which fungi produce this toxin? Yep, it's our henchmen, Aspergillus and Penicillium. This is another huge reason why winemakers work so hard to keep them out of the vineyard. They pose a potential health risk that our dual-natured friend Botrytis just doesn't. And it all leaves us with a pretty fascinating final question. In the delicate balance of making wine, where everything is controlled by something as unpredictable as the weather, the difference between a disastrous flaw and a celebrated feature can be one and the same. It's a great reminder that sometimes the greatest treasures can be found right on a razor's edge.